Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel. Today we're going to explore an interesting and meaningful topic called bridging psychology and linguistics. This topic connects two important fields, psychology, which studies the human mind and behavior, and linguistics, which studies language and communication. Please relax, listen carefully, and enjoy this English listening practice. Language is one of the most powerful tools humans have. Through language, people share ideas, express emotions, build relationships, and understand the world around them. At the same time, psychology helps us understand how people think, feel, learn, remember, and communicate. When psychology and linguistics work together, they help us better understand how the human mind uses language in daily life. For example, when a child learns to speak, many psychological and linguistic processes happen together. A child listens to sounds, recognizes patterns, remembers words, and slowly begins to communicate. This process is not only about language, it is also about memory, attention, emotion, and learning. Psychologists study how the brain processes language. Linguists study the structure and meaning of language. Together, they create a deeper understanding of communication. One important area connecting psychology and linguistics is language acquisition. Language acquisition means learning a language. Children naturally learn their first language by listening to people around them. They slowly understand sounds, words, and grammar patterns. Psychologists believe that the brain is naturally prepared for language learning, especially during childhood. Linguists study how grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary develop over time. Together, these fields help explain why children can learn languages so quickly and naturally. Another interesting area is memory and language. When we speak, read, or listen, our brain uses memory constantly. For example, when you hear a sentence, your brain remembers the beginning of the sentence while processing the ending. Without memory, communication would become very difficult. Psychology helps explain how short-term memory and long-term memory support language understanding. Linguistics helps explain how words and sentence structures are organized inside the brain. Emotion also plays an important role in language. The way people speak often changes depending on their emotions. When someone feels happy, their voice may sound energetic and bright. When someone feels sad, their voice may become slower and softer. Psychologists study how emotions affect communication and behavior. Linguists study how emotions appear in speech, tone, and word choice. This connection helps us better understand human interaction. Another important topic is bilingualism. Many people around the world speak 2 or more languages. Psychologists study how bilingual brains work. They explore how people switch between languages and how bilingualism affects thinking and memory. Linguists study the differences and similarities between languages. Research shows that bilingual people often develop strong cognitive flexibility. This means they can adapt and switch attention more easily. This is another example of psychology and linguistics working together. Communication is also deeply connected to social psychology. People change the way they speak depending on the situation, culture, or person they are talking to. For example, someone may speak formally in a job interview but casually with close friends. Psychologists study social behavior and group interaction. Linguists study how language changes in social situations. Together, they explain how communication shapes human relationships. Another fascinating area is psycholinguistics. Psycholinguistics is a field that combines psychology and linguistics directly. It studies how people understand, produce, and process language in the brain. Psycholinguists ask questions like, how do humans understand sentences so quickly? How does the brain organize words? Why do people sometimes forget words while speaking? How do people learn second languages? These questions help researchers better understand both the mind and language. Reading is another area connected to psychology and linguistics. When people read, the brain must recognize letters, understand words, connect meanings, and build ideas. Psychologists study attention, concentration, and comprehension during reading. Linguists study sentence structure, grammar, and meaning. Together, they help improve education and language learning methods. Technology has also increased the connection between psychology and linguistics. Today, artificial intelligence, voice recognition systems, and language learning apps all use knowledge from both fields. For example, language learning apps use psychological ideas like repetition, motivation, and memory training. At the same time, they use linguistic knowledge about pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. This combination helps people learn languages more effectively. Another interesting topic is body language and communication. Communication is not only about words. Facial expressions, gestures, eye contact, and tone of voice also carry meaning. Psychologists study nonverbal behavior and emotional signals. Linguists study how spoken language works together with body language. Together, they help explain how humans communicate beyond words. Culture is another important connection. Language and culture influence each other deeply. The way people speak often reflects cultural values, traditions, and ways of thinking. Psychologists study how culture affects behavior and identity. Linguists study how culture shapes language use. This helps researchers understand communication across different societies and communities. Another important topic is language and thought. Some researchers believe that language influences the way people think and understand the world. For example, different languages may describe time, color, or emotions differently. This idea creates many interesting discussions between psychology and linguistics. It shows that language is not only a communication tool, but also part of human thinking itself. Learning a second language also involves psychology. Many learners struggle with fear, anxiety, or low confidence while speaking English or another language. Psychologists study motivation, confidence, and emotional barriers in language learning. Linguists study effective teaching methods and language structures. Together, they help create better learning strategies for students around the world. As research continues, psychology and linguistics become even more connected. Scientists continue discovering new information about the brain, communication, memory, and language learning. This growing connection helps improve education, technology, communication, and human understanding. As the connection between psychology and linguistics grows stronger, researchers continue discovering how deeply language shapes human life. Language is not only a communication tool, it is also connected to identity, emotions, relationships, learning, and even personal growth. One important topic in psychology and linguistics is the relationship between language and identity. The language people speak often becomes part of who they are. A person's accent, vocabulary, speaking style, and communication habits can reflect their culture, background, education, and personality. Psychologists study how language influences self-image and confidence. Linguists study how people use language to express identity and social belonging. For example, bilingual individuals sometimes describe feeling slightly different when speaking different languages. They may feel more formal in one language and more emotional or relaxed in another. This shows how language and psychology are closely connected inside the human mind. Another fascinating area is how humans process meaning. When people listen to conversations, their brains work very quickly. The brain must recognize sounds, understand words, predict meaning, and respond almost immediately. Psychologists study attention, decision-making, and cognitive processing during communication. Linguists study sentence structure, semantics, and meaning systems. Together, they help explain how communication happens so smoothly in daily life. Another important topic is misunderstanding in communication. Sometimes people hear the same sentence but understand it differently. This happens because communication is influenced by emotions, experiences, expectations, and cultural background. Psychologists explore how perception and emotions affect understanding. Linguists analyze ambiguity, tone, and language structure. This helps explain why communication problems sometimes happen, even when people use the same language. Stress and anxiety also influence language ability. For example, many language learners can understand English well while studying alone, but they suddenly become nervous during conversations. Their mind becomes blank, and they forget simple words. Psychologists study how anxiety affects memory, confidence, and speaking ability. Linguists study how language performance changes under stress. Together, these fields help teachers create more supportive learning environments. Motivation is another key factor in language learning. Some learners improve very quickly because they feel excited and motivated. Others struggle because they feel discouraged or afraid of failure. Psychology helps explain how motivation affects learning behavior and long-term progress. Linguistics helps identify effective methods for practicing, speaking, listening, reading, and writing. This combination creates stronger educational strategies for students. Another fascinating area is child development and language growth. Children do not simply memorize words. They naturally discover grammar patterns and communication rules through interaction and experience. Psychologists study cognitive development and learning stages in children. Linguists study phonetics, syntax, and language structure development. Together, they help explain how children learn language naturally, without formal instruction. This research also helps educators improve teaching methods for both children and adults. Another important subject is the role of emotions in communication. Words can influence emotions very strongly. Positive words can encourage and inspire people. Negative words can hurt emotions and damage relationships. Psychologists study emotional reactions and interpersonal behavior. Linguists study how language expresses emotion through vocabulary, tone, and sentence structure. This connection is especially important in counseling, leadership, teaching, and relationships. For example, supportive communication can help reduce stress and improve emotional well-being. Another interesting field is discourse analysis. Discourse analysis studies how language is used in conversations, media, politics, education, and society. Psychologists examine social behavior and persuasion techniques. Linguists examine communication patterns, word choice, and hidden meanings. Together, they help explain how language influences opinions, attitudes, and social interaction. This is especially important in modern media and online communication. Social media has created new communication styles and behaviors. People now communicate through short messages, emojis, videos, and online comments. Psychologists study how online communication affects emotions, attention, and relationships. Linguists study internet language, digital expressions, and evolving communication patterns. This shows how psychology and linguistics continue adapting to modern technology and society. Another important area is language disorders. Some people experience difficulties with speaking, understanding, reading, or writing because of brain injuries or developmental conditions. Psychologists and speech therapists study cognitive and emotional effects of these disorders. Linguists study language, structure, and communication challenges. Together, they help develop therapies and support systems for individuals with communication difficulties. This research improves the quality of life for many people around the world. Another fascinating topic is persuasion and influence through language. Words can motivate, inspire, comfort, or persuade people. Politicians, teachers, leaders, advertisers, and speakers carefully choose language to influence audiences. Psychologists study persuasion, decision-making, and emotional influence. Linguists study rhetoric, framing, and communication style. Together, they explain how language affects human behavior and opinions. Storytelling is another area where psychology and linguistics meet. Humans naturally connect with stories. Stories help people remember information, understand emotions, and build empathy. Psychologists study emotional engagement and memory during storytelling. Linguists study narrative structure and language style. This explains why stories are powerful tools in education, entertainment, and communication. Another growing area is artificial intelligence and language processing. Modern AI systems learn to understand and generate human language using ideas from both psychology and linguistics. Psychological theories about learning, memory, and cognition help improve machine learning systems. Linguistic theories help AI understand grammar, meaning, and communication patterns. This research is changing technology, education, and communication around the world. Another interesting topic is cultural communication differences. Different cultures communicate in different ways. Some cultures prefer direct communication, while others use more indirect and polite expressions. Psychologists study cultural values and social behavior. Linguists study cultural language patterns and communication styles. Understanding these differences improves international communication and reduces misunderstandings. Another important area is confidence and public speaking. Many people feel nervous speaking in front of others. Psychologists study fear, confidence, and performance anxiety. Linguists study pronunciation, speech organization, and communication effectiveness. Together, they help people become more confident speakers and communicators. This is especially useful for students, professionals, and language learners. Learning a language is not only an academic process, it is also an emotional and psychological experience. Language learners often experience excitement, frustration, fear, pride, and motivation during their journey. Psychology helps explain these emotional experiences. Linguistics helps explain the technical side of language learning. Together, they create a more complete understanding of human communication and learning. Another important point is empathy in communication. Empathy means understanding another person's feelings and perspective. Good communication is not only about speaking clearly, it is also about listening carefully and understanding emotions. Psychologists study empathy and emotional intelligence. Linguists study conversational patterns and interpersonal language use. This connection improves relationships, teamwork, and human understanding. As science and technology continue advancing, the relationship between psychology and linguistics will become even more important. Researchers continue studying how the brain understands language, how emotions affect communication, and how people learn languages more effectively. This knowledge can improve education, mental health support, communication systems, and international relationships. The bridge between psychology and linguistics helps people better understand not only language, but also the human mind itself. It reminds us that communication is deeply connected to thought, emotion, memory, identity, and human connection. And as humans continue learning, communicating, and developing new technologies, the connection between these two fields will continue growing stronger every year. Another important connection between psychology and linguistics is the study of human behavior during conversations. Communication is not only about grammar or vocabulary. It also includes tone of voice, facial expressions, emotions, and reactions. When people communicate, they constantly send emotional and psychological signals. For example, a person may say, "I'm okay," but their voice sounds sad or tired. Psychologists study emotional behavior and non-verbal communication. Linguists study how meaning changes through tone, stress, and context. Together, they help explain how humans understand hidden emotions during conversations. Another interesting area is the psychology of persuasion in language. Every day, people use language to influence others. Teachers motivate students, advertisements encourage people to buy products, and leaders inspire communities through speeches. Psychologists study how emotions, trust, and social influence affect decision-making. Linguists study how specific words and sentence structures influence meaning and reactions. This connection helps explain why some messages are powerful and memorable. For example, positive and emotional language often creates stronger reactions than cold or neutral language. This is why motivational speakers carefully choose their words. Another fascinating topic is inner speech. Inner speech is the voice inside our minds. When we think silently, people often talk to themselves internally while making decisions, solving problems, or planning activities. Psychologists study how inner speech affects thinking and emotional regulation. Linguists study how language structure appears in silent thinking. This shows that language is deeply connected not only to communication with others, but also to communication within ourselves. Another important subject is attention and concentration during communication. Modern life contains many distractions such as phones, social media, and constant notifications. These distractions can affect listening, memory, and communication quality. Psychologists study attention span and cognitive overload. Linguists study how people process spoken and written information under different conditions. Together, they help improve educational methods and communication strategies in the modern world. Another interesting area is humor and language. Humor is deeply connected to psychology and linguistics because jokes often depend on timing, emotions, wordplay, and cultural understanding. Psychologists study why humans laugh and how humor affects emotions and social bonding. Linguists study puns, double meanings, and conversational timing. This explains why humor can sometimes be difficult to translate between languages and cultures. Another important topic is empathy and listening. Good communication is not only about speaking well, it is also about listening carefully and understanding others emotionally. Psychologists study emotional intelligence and active listening skills. Linguists study conversational patterns and response strategies. Together, they help improve relationships, teamwork, and counseling techniques. For example, supportive listening can reduce stress and improve trust between people. Another fascinating field is language and memory recovery. Some individuals lose language ability after accidents or illnesses, affecting the brain. Psychologists, neurologists, and linguists work together to help these individuals recover communication skills. Therapies often combine emotional support, memory training, and language exercises. This research has helped many people regain confidence and reconnect with others through communication. Another important area is educational psychology and language teaching. Teachers must understand both language structure and student psychology. Some students learn visually, others learn through listening, and some learn best through practice and conversation. Psychologists study motivation, memory, and learning styles. Linguists study grammar systems, pronunciation, and language acquisition. Together, they help teachers create more effective and engaging classrooms. Technology has also transformed communication and language learning. Today, people can learn languages online, speak with international friends, and use AI-powered translation tools. Psychologists study how technology affects attention, motivation, and social behavior. Linguists study how digital communication changes language patterns and vocabulary. New forms of communication appear constantly through the internet and social media. For example, short messages, emojis, abbreviations, and internet slang have become part of modern language use. This shows how language continuously evolves with society and technology. Another fascinating topic is multilingual thinking. People who speak multiple languages often experience flexible thinking patterns. Sometimes bilingual individuals switch languages depending on emotion, environment, or topic. Psychologists study cognitive flexibility and mental processing in multilingual individuals. Linguists study code switching and language interaction. This research shows that learning multiple languages may strengthen certain cognitive skills, such as problem solving and adaptability. Another important area is cross-cultural communication. As globalization increases, people from different cultures communicate more frequently in business, education, travel, and online spaces. Misunderstandings can happen because communication styles differ across cultures. Some cultures value direct communication, while others prefer indirect and polite expressions. Psychologists study cultural values and social expectations. Linguists study language patterns and cultural communication styles. Together, they help improve international cooperation and understanding. Another growing field is emotional language analysis. Researchers now use technology to analyze emotional patterns in speech and writing. Psychologists study emotional states and behavioral indicators. Linguists study emotional vocabulary and speech structure. This research may help improve mental health support, customer service, education, and even healthcare communication. Another important topic is confidence and language performance. Many intelligent people struggle to express themselves clearly because of nervousness or self-doubt. Psychologists study self-confidence, fear of judgment, and communication anxiety. Linguists study speaking patterns and fluency development. Together, they help people improve public speaking and conversational confidence. This is especially important for students and language learners who often fear making mistakes. Another fascinating area is storytelling and memory. Humans remember stories more easily than isolated facts. Stories create emotional connections and organize information naturally. Psychologists study emotional engagement and memory retention. Linguists study narrative structure and storytelling techniques. This explains why storytelling is widely used in education, marketing, entertainment, and leadership. Another interesting connection is between language and creativity. Creative thinking often depends on flexible language use. Writers, poets, musicians, and speakers use language creatively to express ideas and emotions. Psychologists study imagination and creative thinking. Linguists study metaphor, symbolism, and language style. Together, they help explain how humans use language to create art, culture, and innovation. Another growing area is neuroscience and language. Modern brain imaging technology allows scientists to observe how different areas of the brain process language. Psychologists and neuroscientists study cognitive functions, emotions, and memory systems. Linguists study grammar processing, sound recognition, and meaning interpretation. Together, they continue discovering how language exists inside the human brain. This research may improve treatments for language disorders and learning difficulties in the future. Another important topic is the relationship between language and social connection. Humans naturally seek communication and belonging. Language helps people build friendships, families, communities, and cultures. Psychologists study attachment, relationships, and emotional support. Linguists study conversational interaction and social communication. This connection reminds us that language is not only about information, it is also about human connection and understanding. As research continues, the bridge between psychology and linguistics becomes even more valuable. Together, these fields help explain how humans learn, communicate, feel emotions, solve problems, build relationships, and understand the world around them. They also help improve education, mental health support, technology, artificial intelligence, communication training, and language learning systems. Most importantly, they remind us that language is deeply connected to the human mind and human experience. Every conversation, every story, every emotion, and every thought is influenced by this powerful connection between psychology and linguistics. In conclusion, bridging psychology and linguistics helps us better understand both communication and human behavior. These two fields work together to explain how people think, learn, feel, and connect through language. From language learning and memory to emotions, identity, and technology, psychology and linguistics continue shaping the modern world in important ways. As science and communication continue evolving, this connection will become even more meaningful in education, healthcare, artificial intelligence, and global communication. Understanding this relationship not only improves language learning, but also helps people understand themselves and others more deeply. Thank you so much for listening and practicing English with this topic today. I hope this lesson helped you improve both your listening skills and your understanding of this fascinating subject. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep improving your English every day. See you in the next video.